we have a right to guard and protect our peace, even if that means I can no longer rock with you. Because some people, you got to get them far away from you, because them being lethargic about what could have taken your sanity, that don't sit well with me. Okay, I do want to good morning, everyone. I am Felicia, and I am here with Brandy and Uncle Franklin, and we're going to have a talk today about life after sexual abuse. And so, without further ado, I want to introduce uh, our panelists. We have Brandy. She's going to be speaking about breaking the silence, finding the courage to be heard. Again, I'm Felicia, and I'm going to be speaking about life after trauma, rebuilding voice, boundaries, and hope. And then we have my Uncle Franklin, Chaplain Franklin, on the line, and he's going to be offering commentary as we start the conversation. And so, Brandy, I give the floor to you to introduce yourself. Uh, start where you want to start from. And again, this is an open and honest platform. The goal is to heal ourselves and hopefully heal others.
Well, good morning. My name is Brandy. I often don't use my last name, even though I know it. For my topic to begin, I guess, well, I start at the very beginning. Being a younger girl in my family, I'm in a very large family. I have a huge family. I don't want to say mainly comprised of women, but a decent amount of equal on both sides. Um, I feel like I was a very trusting child at during my younger years, and I mean in birth to about 12. After that, I think a lot of it was just my eyes were open. A lot of the rose colored glasses came off, and I truly just saw people in the world for what it really is. So my experience was my family had a baby shower, and something was forgotten, and I volunteered like I usually did. Oh, I'll go back home and get it because from the house where the shower was being hosted to the house where the item was left behind, there wasn't a much difference. And back then, when you're 12, you can walk 8, 9 blocks, and everybody think it's all good. Now at 12, 8, 9 blocks is a lot. So I go back to the house to get the item. I let the person who was home know, and he's definitely a family member. Hey, I'm here, just so I wouldn't startle anybody. But I'm like, hey, I'm here, and we had an amazing relationship. This person and myself, as far as I knew, everywhere they went, I went. We sit, we talk in the morning, just being very loving from what I thought, what it felt like to me, like somebody who genuinely just loved me as a person, was willing to listen to me as a kid, because I always felt like in my family, a lot of people didn't actually listen to me. And it's maybe me, just because I was an avid reader. So I had a real tendency to like tell you the truth when you were wrong, and tell you were wrong, and then tell you where to find how I figured out you were wrong. Well, if you go back to this book, it'll tell you exactly why. So I get it. I never really fit in my family, to me. But this person made me feel like I fit. So I get to the house, I announce myself, I come up the steps. He's like, oh, well, come say hi to me for a second. And I say, hey, well, I came back to get this item for the baby shower and I have to rush back. And they then say, okay, well, you can do that. So I come up, he's like, well, come here for me for a second. So I come up the steps and I come inside and we have a brief conversation. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm leaving now because I had to take the thing. And out of the clear blue, here comes a grab and a deep, weird hug, and then a kiss. Keep in mind, I'm 12. So I'm 100% really like, it's so odd to me in the moment, feeling it, still even saying it out loud, just feeling that, like, what in the world is happening? What are you doing? I tear myself away and I'm shocked and my eyes are open. But the look on the other side was genuine, like pleasure. But then the other look was more like, are you going to, like, let's see how you're going to play this. It wasn't a I dare you, you better not tell anybody. It was a firm kind of, I'm going to see what you do with that. If you're going to let this continue, or what you want to do next. So I rush out of the house and I go to 12 blocks back to where I came from. And the whole way there, I'm asking myself, should I say something? Should I say something? Should I say something? This is not right. But this is like one of my favorite people in the world. But should I say something? Something seems wrong. And then I remember a story my mom told us about an uncle of hers who used to like to ask the girls in the family to sit on his lap so he could feel up your dress. So I then my it's clicking to me like this is the same thing. This is the same thing. And if my mom said that wasn't okay, this can't be okay either. So I rush back in and I'm crying and I'm just full of tears. And then I tell. I tell my family. I look at all the ladies sitting around the table. There has to be maybe 12, 13 of them. And I just tell. And I'm like, they kiss me. They held me tight and they kissed me and there was tongue and it was horrible. And then I'm just blabbering. And I'll never forget the surprise, the shock, and then the instant denial. No, they would never do that to you. You must be mistaken. There's no way. Yeah, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, there's no mistake. I'm telling you the truth. And in that moment when they didn't believe me, is when everything fractured for me in my family. And it has never truly repaired itself, and I doubt that it ever will. Currently, this person is deceased, and they took that with them. The family rocked out with that until up until the day that person died. They were like,
Brandy, one
yes,
second. Your voice is going a little lower. If I'm not sure if you moved your mouth away from the phone.
okay. Can
Yeah,
you hear me better now?
that's a lot better. Yes.
Okay. So in that moment is truly when my family it fractured to me. I I couldn't believe it. One, I couldn't believe it happened to me. Two, I couldn't believe that the people who I trust to take care of me are looking me dead in the face, telling me that did not happen. And then, like I said, fast forward to the time that he passed away, and everybody's still like, "Oh no, that didn't happen. Oh, absolutely not." But then little things kept coming out. Oh well, there was cases of sexual assault with other people. And you wouldn't think it, you wouldn't see it in this person, but I never set foot in their house again. Ever, ever, ever. My children have probably visited maybe once or twice when they were babies because it became to me of the understanding that if you guys didn't protect me, there's absolutely no way you'll protect my kids. And my way of protecting my kids is to keep them away from you. So still to this day, my children aren't very familiar with a lot of members of my family. Like they know them, but they don't know them. They know them in namesake and, oh, you grew up with this person, but I've not spent any time with them. So we don't have a relationship. And for me, that's on purpose because I truly don't believe in not protecting your family. Very few, I've not met a child yet who's ever said something like that happened to them and they've not been telling the truth. I've not met an adult who said somebody touched them in a way that it made them uncomfortable, where it's actually not been true. It's a real hard story to just make up. To really look somebody in the face and say, this is what I'm going to say about you, even though it's not true. It's vindictive, it's evil. So, and for me to have I don't even want to say courage, because at the time, I was a kid. So to me, it was just what I was supposed to do. I know they're going to see me. I know they're going to see my side, and I know they're going to believe me. And to have them not believe me, and still, like I said, to this day, we've not brought it up again. But they rocked out with the he didn't do that. To the day he died, they buried him nice and neat. So
How long has the person been deceased?
they have now been deceased for about 5 years.
5 years.
Yes, because my youngest baby, he's never, yeah, my family, my children don't play with my kids like that.
I'm sorry, you were kind of low. Would you
Yes, but it's been about 5 years. It's been
say?
5 years since they've passed. There was inklings of whether or not I would go to the funeral. I said absolutely not. There was a lot of backlash. Well, why wouldn't you? Why would I? You tell me. But then the story broke. The scab reopened for other members of my family who weren't aware of the story, because I'm using it as a story, because when nobody believes it, it's just a story. And people who were closer, and then there was anger. There was a separation of a bit from a family member that I was younger and closer to, and because this person would be their grandfather, and they never knew. And it was like, well, why didn't you tell me? It wasn't my story to tell you. Honestly, I could have told you, but from the perspective that you needed to hear it were the people who are closer to you. I think they should have told you if they wanted you to know. But now it's going to come. The blowback is on me
Yeah.
because now I'm the one who gave you this really ugly piece of true history of a person that you never thought would do something like that.
I think oftentimes what I'm going to say is the whistleblower. Usually the messenger, the whistleblower is usually always the one who is um, attacked some kind of way. And even by those sometimes who have experienced the same thing, they know in their heart. Now, I can't speak for the people in your family, but just from my own experience, sometimes it is easier for people to pretend as if what you just told them is not true, because either it's going to awaken their own trauma, or now they have to see this person for who they are and confront that. And so it's almost like picking a side. Am I going to believe the person who's telling me that this has happened, or am I at the cost of tarnishing what I thought I believed about the person? Or I don't want to really relive what I'm going through, so it's easier just to pretend that what I'm hearing isn't the truth, because then I have to spill the tea on myself. And it is a shame, especially, well, it's a shame for anyone to have to go through that, but for a child who has limited life skills, coping skills, to try to navigate all of those feelings, because in one split second you were you were thrust into trust versus what is this? This feels creepy. It does not feel good. It is not, it doesn't feel natural, you know. And then on top of that, to have people who, like you said, that should have given you a more compassionate response. Yeah. And so now,
I
like as an adult, how are those relationships now?
As an adult, those relationships are really like non-existent. I created a space and from that where it was a detachment. It was, I'm here because you guys are all related to me, and I do, in a way, in a sense, need you, some of you. I had two people who truly believed me, one who also told me I never had to set foot in the house again, and was an amazing person to me. And I'm truly grateful to have had that because it was an instant, I believe you. But everybody else, yeah, still to this day, it's yeah, I want to be okay with them. And there's a space where I want to often say, okay, well, I can hang around everybody and I want to be with you guys. But then it disappears fast. I take it back. It's like, no, I don't. You still make me uncomfortable. You still make me uncomfortable. And I know you have to live with sometimes with an apology that you never get. You have to forgive, in a sense, to make yourself feel better. But I did not. I'm not living with the apology that I didn't get. Because a simple sorry might have made this feel a little bit better. I'm sorry we didn't believe you. We messed that up for you. And that would have been okay, honestly. I think it would have started a bit of a healing. I had to find healing from outside sources. I had to heal myself from the inside out. I still, and it fractured another stage of a relationship. So you don't have a relationship with me. You don't have a relationship with my child. You definitely won't have a relationship with my child's child. So it it's a horrible feeling at times. And like I said, I work with my therapist. We talk about it. We've opened it up. We're hatching through it currently. And it really boils down to I've created a family of my own with people that I genuinely trust and have opened up to and shared things with that most members of my family don't even know about. It's like my family knows me, but they don't actually know me. Like, so when people are like, you don't know me like that, it's true. You don't know me like
Mhm.
you knew the kid version of me. You knew the person you broke when I was that little girl. And beyond that, you know me in the physical sense of you know what I look like, but you don't know what I'm like on the inside because I won't allow that. They never had access to me again after that.
Wow. I know for me, when I was abused, it came in different stages. It came in different stages by different people throughout my life. It started at a sleepover once, and the two older sisters were intimate with each other. I don't know to what extent. I just saw the kissing part, but it seemed to be something that was very comfortable for the siblings. And so, since I stayed the night, they invited me to watch, and then I was kissed, and I had never been kissed before. I didn't know how to respond to that, so I didn't. And then when I was in elementary school, my gym teacher, they used to teach back then. You used to wear the blue one piece gym suit with that elastic around your legs that would make your skin itch because it was so tight. And they were teaching us how to. He was teaching us how to do headstands, and so I didn't know how to. He assisted, and so when he grabbed what should have been helping maybe around the knee or the ankle, he took and he slid his finger into my panties. And then I was, I'm kind of, upside down trying to do this headstand. And I remember jerking away, gaining my composure. And then I saw him smell his finger.
Oh, that's disgusting.
And that was the point where I said, okay, I don't want to take gym anymore. And so I didn't. I didn't tell anyone why. I just decided at that point, gym was not a class that I was going to take. So I worked in the principal's, I worked in with the secretary in the principal's office during that time. And then a neighbor who from the house that I live in right now, and I can look out my window and look right across the street, and I can see the house where he lived. He was a firefighter, and my mother was a CPA at the time, and he when I turned 18, he had called over to the house because we didn't have cell phones back then. We had beepers, but everyone had a landline. And so he called and he was just like, Felicia, I have some text work for your mom that I need to give her. Do you think you can come by and get it? And so I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So when I went over to the house, when you walked into his house, it was kind of like an indoor porch. I remember walking through, and then there was a door, and then you walked to what was the living room. Again, he was what we considered a pillar of the community. He worked for the fire department. He was very involved with the youth and doing different things. There was nothing sinister, in that way. I didn't see any red flags, and I don't think anyone else did. We knew he saw a lot of different women, but he was a grown man, And so I remember him saying to me, he locked the door, and it had the kind of lock where you could lock it, and then you could take the key out. And so I was like, what's going on? And he said, I've been watching you, and now that you're 18, you know, I know that you are you know, active.
Mm.
And so I need to know when my turn is coming. And so I started crying, and he was like, boo hoo, you can cry if you want, but either I'm going to pick what I do to you, or I'm going to let you pick what's comfortable for you. He didn't use the word comfortable. He said, either I'm going to pick what I'm going to do, or you can pick. And so I picked. I picked because there was no way for me to get out of this man's house. Now, there was some abuse that happened prior to that in my home. And so I couldn't believe that what I was experiencing, here we go again. It was like a trail of just wickedness was following me. And so anyway, and I'm, it doesn't, it doesn't piss me off when I think about it, because as you said, you go for healing, and you heal, you stop, you get mad, you get angry, you heal a little bit more. So that's kind of been my journey. But what happened was, he took me to his bedroom, he did what he needed to do, and then he made a telephone call. He made a telephone call to someone who he knew that worked for a certain department, and asked if she could get me a summer job.
Mm.
And when he hung up with her, he said, see, it wasn't that bad, something to that effect. You're going to get a summer job out of it. And in my mind, I was like, I just want to get the hell out of here. I just want to leave. I'm not really interested in this summer job. I can't wait to leave. And when I did tell my mother. And the reason why I told my mom was because it had already been happening in the home with her then living boyfriend. With her living boyfriend, it was just fondling, and him walking in my room, me waking up in the middle of the night, and maybe he was trying to lift my nightgown, those kind of things. Now, those things happen right here in the house where I live. In the very spot where I am is where my mom's bed used to be. And that is where it first happened. My mom's living boyfriend fondling me. I say all of this to say that through my healing, which could have taken my mind, on some days it did feel like it. But in my faith, I asked all the questions, God, where were you? How could you just sit there and look and not help? What kind of love is that? I wrestled, and I asked all of those questions. The only thing I can say to you is that there is a scripture. For me, there is a scripture that what the enemy meant for bad, God meant for good, right? And um, what does that mean? This is what it means. The guy across the street who raped me, I didn't know it was rape at the time, because he gave me a choice to, either I'm going to do something, or you're going to pick for me to do something. But it wasn't until my mom was taking me up to college, and at that time you could listen to the news on Channel 6 on the radio. And there was this lady who had this big case, and it was when HIV and AIDS was like really leading in, it was trending in stories. And the prosecution tried to say that this lady was not raped, and her attorneys were saying that she was. The reason why prosecution was saying that they didn't believe she was raped is because she asked her rapist to put a condom on. And what the prosecution tried to say is that at the point of her asking for a condom, she consented. However, she won the case on the fact that you don't get a right, you don't have a right to take a person's choice from them. You don't tell someone that you choose what I'm going to do to you. And it was at that moment, sitting in the car, that I realized that I had been raped. Up to that point, I did not believe that I was raped. I really thought that because I made a choice of what he could do based on what he was talking about, I consented. And so after he did that, I remember coming home. I told my mom, And then I told my mother about her living boyfriend, and she was like, "Why didn't you tell me all of these things?" And I said, "Well, I'm telling you now because at this point, this is not something that I can handle now with my mother's living boyfriend." So again, you have childhood, stay the night, sleep over. Then you have the gym teacher, my mom's living boyfriend doing that, and then across the street, a neighbor who I trusted doing that. How was I healed in my walk by that scripture? What the enemy meant for bad, God meant for good, is because the very department that he called to try to get me a summer job is now the department where it just was happenstance, and I didn't even realize it until I was deep in therapy. But I now work for that department and have for the past 16 years, and I have a wonderful, I enjoy what I do for a living. I can remember that coming to my mind, and two, he died as a chaplain.
Hmm.
I serve as a chaplain the right way. The very house where this happened, I don't walk around this house with any ghosts. This house truly is the house of healing. And the Lord has sent me families that have had different trauma. And because I was able to face my own and to reconcile um, my discontentment with God, um, I've been blessed to be able to help other families. So where a lot of trauma happened for me in this home, families come. It's not that they don't still have some level of trauma or residual, because life is life. But they come here and they get healed, and they have opportunities here to grow with a house family that maybe they would not have had the Lord not sent them here. And so everything that tried to diminish me, hurt me over my life, the Lord used those very things to bless my life. Um, the school where I was fondled by that gym teacher, my children now work for that, work for the school district, so it is almost as if everything that tried to come my way to hurt me in some way, shape, form, or fashion, those very details were used to then bless my life. And I'm supposed to talk about rebuilding voice, boundaries, and hope. Rebuilding your voice really, and it's different for everyone, but rebuilding your voice, one, means that you have to recognize that you have one. And that if the people who are in your life don't want to hear or are tired of hearing about what you have to say about the life you're living, then they are not the audience for you. They are not the community for you. And we have a right to guard and protect our peace, even if that means I can no longer rock with you. Because some people, you got to get them far away from you because them being lethargic about what could have taken your sanity, that don't sit well with me. It man, that don't sit well with me. And I try not to cuss as much in this season of my life. Like I still do from time to time, but it was a time I would cuss you to filth, especially when I knew I deserved better, when I finally got the courage to speak and to rebuild and to find my voice and to set those boundaries. What I did find is that I had boundaries in one area, and then they were very weak in other areas. And so that will be definitely, we'll explore all of those things later on as we go. But I definitely understand what you mean when you say, Brandy, that sometimes just for your peace and for your peace of mind, you just cannot revisit some relationships, even if there is forgiveness.
Mm,
Even if
yeah.
it's forgiveness,
Yeah.
I forgive you, but not to my own detriment. Yeah, no, I'm not. I ain't finna do that. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Uncle Frank, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, I just wanted to say I'm so grateful to be here today with you ladies. And as I'm sitting here listening to you, I think about the courage that it takes. I think about the strength. I think about overcoming, if you will. Um, and as I'm sitting here and I'm just reminded of family secrets that all of our families, I believe, have some. But the courage that it takes, I think, for both of you ladies to be here today and to be as honest as you have been, I'm very moved by what I'm hearing and understanding that it's an ongoing healing process. I think both of you have already begun that process. And I just want to say that I'm just real grateful to be here to share this with you on today. And I will most definitely be tuning in to hear the rest of the stories as we go forward. And I just want to say thank you for your honesty on today.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. We do have Tia on the line. Tia, if you want to unmute yourself and maybe if you have any insight, you don't have to share any personal experiences if you don't want to, but is there anything that you would like to share on the topic, or do you have any questions?
I'm just so happy to be here and just to listen in on the conversation, um, and just learn and get as much knowledge as I can. At first, I thought it would be a little triggering when I first got on, but um, I can move past those things because when you are healed from those things, you have to remember that you're healed from it and not let it trigger you. Um, into another place. So I'm just glad I stayed on and I listened, and it really shows me that I have grown from where I was.
That's good. That's good. Our conversation next month is actually with LASA. Our conversation next month is going to be something to how do we defeat triggers? Because there are triggers. Brandy, have you found that in your healing, did you go through anything where maybe not that you blamed yourself, because your story was a lot different with the details, but did you ever consider that maybe you had, if you just didn't go back for whatever you were going to retrieve, that maybe it wouldn't have happened?
So yes. So honestly, I thought about that for a very long time. I thought about all the buildup. So basically going everywhere, the gifts for trips when I was younger, like just even just little field trips when you're a kid and having that big old lunch that you got to pack, they were all financed on that side. Everything. Going to the supermarket, buying the little toys that used to be in the little roundabout at the supermarket. Anything that I could ever dream of. If I wanted ice cream or candy or anything, it was always, yes, you can have it. You're such a good little girl. You can always. Used to call me Brandy Dandy. Still to this day, if you ever put Dandy on the end of my name, I get irritable. Like, don't do that. I don't like it. So it really became of what did I do to make you comfortable enough to do this to me?
Mm. Yeah.
And made you think I wouldn't say anything. Like, how did you feel? Did you feel like I was such an introverted kid or such a quiet kid to myself? Because I really was always. Um, that I would just hold this for you. Like, I'm just hold on to that for you, and it's gonna be all good. And I'm never gonna say anything to anybody.
Mhm.
So I thought about that, and I thought about it for years and years, and still to this day, I don't have an answer for that. I really would like to know. But then there's a side of me that says people who do that will do that to anybody that they can, whether you allow it or not, whether you're going to tell. And the people prior to before me who never told, still, I don't blame you. I don't blame you, and I never will. I get you do what's best for you. You do it makes it easiest for you to cope and feel better. To me, I thought by telling somebody, and I really thought from the way I had the big talk in my family that they were going to air him out.
Mhm.
When that didn't happen, it was like, okay. So nobody, nothing. And then it came well, he told someone that it was a pork chop bone that was in his mouth. And I asked out loud when they used that as the defense, why did it go in my mouth? Because if you got a pork chop bone in your mouth, if you've never kissed me on my mouth, where do we make that correlation? Like, did pork chop bone poke me? Is that what you're saying? How? If we're not that close. If we are not that close, if none of this happened, why would that be the thing you said happened?
Wow.
It was just to appease everybody. It was a story to make me seem like, oh, well, she was mistaken. Yeah, no, thanks. No, I didn't make a mistake, but okay.
Mhm.
But that helped me going forward because when it was the gym teacher at my school who was a complete and total, I like to call him preverts because, he might not have always built up the pervert just yet when I was there.
Mhm.
And he liked to touch everybody. And I played basketball. So we basketball practice, and he got really close to me, and I had the ball, and I put the ball to separate us. And I looked him dead in his eyes and let him know, you will never touch me. You won't breathe on me hard, or you won't have a problem. And I remember the threat that was in it, and I meant that. And the threat was everything you could take the threat however you want to take it. You could take it as I'm going to tell on you. You could take it as I'm going to physically assault you. However you want to take this, sir, just know that's what it is. So I think not having my family believe me then also gave me the courage to make sure it didn't ever happen again with anybody. And it's not that I didn't put myself in spaces with people. It was no, I'm in the space, but just let you know, it hardened me. It truly, truly hardened me and made me a different type of person that on the one side I am grateful for, but on the other side, it hurt me so deep and so bad that it still hurts today.
Yeah, yeah. When you speak about trips and things being funded by that side of the family, it brought up a detail because it's so interesting how trauma kind of unfolds. We experience it all at once, but how our mind and our memories piece things together. Um, doesn't always sound like a complete story. It's not always, I should say, a fluid story, how we remember things. But when you said that about the school trips and things being funded by that side of the family, I can recall when my mother's living boyfriend used to fondle me either in my sleep, but I could be at that time my room was the middle room before it was the back room. So I was in the middle room, and I can remember, how you take the door, if you open the door, there's like a crack where the seam of the door is, and you could kind of peek through.
Mm-hmm.
Always, I found him there. But when he actually had fondled me, and my mother had went out she went to the store to get ice cream and did something. He called me into the room, this very spot where I'm sitting. He called me into the room, and he said, I want to talk to you about something. And then he started to fondle me, and then I started crying. And he said, that doesn't feel good. And does it feel good? And I said, no. And he said, please don't tell your mother because I can go to jail. And I'm in my mind like, now the rape that happened across the street, that hadn't happened at that point. This was prior to, but I remember waking up the next morning. At this point, I was then in the back room, and there's a window in the back room, and there's a ledge right, like a ledge right inside the room where the window is. He had left $1 on the counter. He didn't have to say this dollar is hush money. I knew what it was hitting for. I understood, but I was still trying to figure out, what do I do with this? So I'm just going to stay as far away from him as I possibly can. And at that time, I did not have the relationship with my mom that made me feel comfortable enough to tell her about this. Because again, this was prior to the rape. The rape was like, I can't take anymore, because it seems like there's a string of people who really just think I'm a playground, and I started getting,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember taking that $1, going to the store. Now, back then, you could get a whole lot of stuff for $1. And I can remember when I went to Miss Kim's store, and she bagged up all that stuff for $1. I saw my worth being bagged up. I said, wow, I'm worth a whole dollar. That stuck with me in terms of low self-esteem building, because although I had been violated prior to that, that for me was the first time that I put a value on myself, and it totaled $1. $1. And it was, now that I think about it, I'm grateful that I am able to talk about those things that have happened to me without it overtaking me. There was a time in my life where I was just checked out. I was present, but I was checked out. You know, I was angry. I was upset, very envious of other people who seemed to have it easier. I thought that I was a dented can, you know, that was easily discarded. And maybe that's why I was attracting this behavior, you know, from people, because I didn't understand the psyche behind it. You know, that these people had problems. This is an illness, and it had zero to do with me. It had everything to do with unresolved trauma and issues that they were dealing with, and space and opportunity, and me being there. Like you said, it could happen to anyone, you know. Yeah. And so rebuilding and having the courage to be heard, or having the courage to speak, really begins with knowing that what you went through is worth speaking about, even if it makes people uncomfortable. I would rather 10 million people be uncomfortable about what I have to share that happened to me, but what I say heal one person, or start the healing process of one person. So everybody else can kind of kick rocks. You know, I'm not in a season of my life where I want to cower, but about what has happened to me, and even in relationships, you know, because for me, it turned into being very promiscuous, and, you know, not really recognizing that I did have worth. You want to trade, for me, I wanted to trade how worthless I felt for some feeling of somebody wanting me, genuinely wanting me, not for anything else, you know. And so there's a whole trauma behind it. There are many stories to be told by many different people: men, women, boys, girls, elders. You know, I am glad that that my experience did not turn me into a predator.
I can agree with that. And you said it made you the trauma, and that you feel like it made you promiscuous. I think, and it literally just clicked a light bulb in my head. It made me want to be less desired. I did not want to be seen by people in that way. I didn't for so long. It was, yeah, I'm good if nobody sees me. And I think that is partially why I kind of dialed myself down. Like I was never really girly ever. My mother could attest to that, when with the shoes and the meat. But as I grew and as I got older, it did make me want to dial it back a little bit. Like, yeah, I don't really want you to see me and desire me. I want you to like me as a person, but I don't really need you to desire me, because I don't ever want something like this to happen, because there was a wall there for me.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to apologize for the fact that you even had to experience that. I want to apologize to anyone who has had to experience that, or if you are someone who is caring or loving someone who has experienced that. the triggers and the trauma that come along with being survivors. That's another thing. I no longer see myself as a victim. I survived sexual violence. I did. I survived it because I'm here to tell the story. Um, I no longer speak with a victim's voice, but at the beginning of my healing, I absolutely did, and so I don't fault anyone for being um, at a certain step in their journey. At some point, it will hurt less, although it will still hurt. Sometimes it can be a smell or a sound, or it could be a number of things that will trigger us. And we're going to talk about those things in our next conversation next month, God willing. I hope that everyone will join us. Well, I do want to thank you for joining us. Again, thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Tia. Thank you, Uncle Frank. I greatly appreciate it. So this has been a conversation, LASA, LASA, Life After Sexual Abuse. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Have a great day.